Welcome to the Culturally Distinct Podcast. It's your boy DJ KO. I'm glad you guys tuned back into the show. Hey, look, last week we had an awesome show. We look forward to having more awesome shows. Look, last week we had a great one. I had a conversation with the brother last week, and hopefully we get the brother into the court system because he's a good brother. Shout out to Sam Millich. He's a good brother. We're trying to get him in there for the 228th. But
for the what?
228th. That's the district.
Oh,
that's the area where he represented.
You to let the people 228th.
But anyway, this is Mr. DJ KO. K Jack is finally back in the building. Finally, after she took a sabbatical,
busy,
you know what I'm saying? She making money for us over here.
Busy.
So look, shout out to everybody that's making money in 2022, starting off the year. I read something today. It said if you start your business in 2022, by the year 2030, you should be already set. So you ain't got to work no more ever again in life.
8 years.
8 years. So if you start this year, so that means go ahead and start that thing. So anyway, today we have a special show for you guys today. I'm glad you guys tuned in because some of the old people used to say, if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. And this brother, you know, he specializes in some of the black history, heritage, culture, and we're gonna dive deep into that today. Everybody, welcome to the show, Mr. Alea Da'Paul Lee. Hey.
Thank God for having me.
What's going on, my brother?
Nothing much, man.
You good?
Oh yeah, full off of that good old Jamaican food.
Okay, what you had? What you had today?
I had some chicken curry. Some of the best vegetables I ever had. I mean, they picked them fresh.
I got you.
Plantain. You sound like that meal was good to you.
Oh yeah.
You still saying,
Look,
he said,
Look, don't be surprised if I fall asleep over there.
You sound like that meal was good to you.
It definitely slowed me down. That's for sure. I'm telling you, that meal was heavier than the boots that I got on right now.
The itis kicking in.
Oh yeah,
that's that blackness.
This that Boondocks episode of the itis.
Yeah.
That's that blackness. We're gonna talk about that blackness today. So look, Alex, tell the people exactly where you're from.
Beaumont, Texas.
Beaumont. So you born and raised in Beaumont?
Born and raised.
Okay, cool, man. Look, I'm glad you came to the show today, man.
Oh, I'm glad y'all have me here.
So look, I know a lot of people have titles. I know a lot of people don't really know too much of what we're going to talk about today. You're considered as a genealogist, correct?
A historian. Right?
A historian, right? So if you go into a little detail for those who don't know exactly what that is, because I know people they look at the name or they have these tests, what is it, 23andMe or something like that?
Ancestry.com.
Ancestry.com, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but you do something, you dig a little more deeper.
Right.
You do your own research.
Correct.
So tell the people a little bit what you do in the whole.
So basically, a genealogist, we study the different family units to see where the person is now, and we can go back to the ancestors. And with my genealogy process, I have also turned into a historian because I started to get the information within the community. So it's just more than studying the families. I can understand the different things surrounding the family unit as well as the economics of the communities.
Okay. So let me ask you this, to jump right into it. What out of all professions, right? You could have been a mechanic. I'm not saying you're a mechanic type. You could have been a doctor. You could have been a teacher. What made you get into that?
It's interesting, actually.
Okay.
I actually started from the ancestor. Like I had went over to my great aunt home in Eunice, Louisiana.
Okay.
And I didn't even know that my grandfather had any siblings, like older, I didn't know I had any great aunts. So when we got there, it was pretty interesting to finally see my grandfather having a sister. And I honestly didn't know what race she was because I wasn't used to seeing somebody of her complexion.
Okay.
Being
She was
a
fair
relative.
complexion.
Very fair.
Okay.
Beautiful white hair. And when I looked at the wall, of course, a lot of Catholics have, the Last Supper. Then I saw a picture of a man who at the time I thought was a white man. I knew he wasn't the president because I wasn't familiar seeing that picture.
Right.
So when I looked at that picture, I just kept staring. I was wondering, like, why she got this white man hanging on her wall? And then I asked her, and that's when she told me, "Oh, no, baby," in a French accent, and said, "That's no white man. That's my dad." And my grandfather, he looked so embarrassed because he was like, I can't believe that he literally just interrupted our conversation and asked who was that white man on the wall. Just so happened it was his dad, and that's where I got my name from, because I was named after my grandfather, and the white man on the wall, which I thought was a white man, was named Alex as well. And when I looked at that picture, actually, after they told me the relationship, I just stared at that picture for almost 10 minutes, just amazed that
you wanted to make him be black. Like, I know that's a white man looking at this picture.
Not only that, was just, I never saw a picture of one of my ancestors. So it done something to me. It literally changed my life from that point, because looking at that picture, I was like, man, I don't really know nothing about my family history.
Right.
Because I would always take on things that we've learned. We sort of program. As a people, we program to watch different things like Roots, and we automatically think that, okay, that's our family.
Right.
But with my research, after looking at my ancestor that looked like that, I started to question things as, if he looked like that, imagine what his parents look like. And that's what started my genealogy journey from there.
So
when you say you have to get into the history of it,
right,
that's very prevalent that you say that, because to say your great aunt lives in Eunice, that's a lot, because in that southwest area of Louisiana, French was very heavy.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a big separation between growing up even as a child to be a sharecropper, where a lot of them as children didn't even learn to speak English, or you went to school and got educated and they learned to speak English. Because, like, in that area, my sister-in-law, her mom, she had brothers that you would have to translate what people were saying because they only spoke French, but they look like you and I.
Right.
So it's like a lot of sharecroppers. So in those areas, and you go to certain pockets and get into the subcultures, you have to learn the history of it to understand the ancestry.
Exactly.
Basically.
Okay. If you don't do that, you're gonna exactly, like what I watched today. It made me realize a lot how rich Black culture is. For example, when I went to the Jamaican restaurant, I didn't see anything on the menu that indicated that they was Cajuns.
Okay.
It was Creole.
Right.
And a lot of people like to misinterpret
Cajun
the
and Creole.
and the Creole.
Absolutely.
And people don't understand that when you put a Cajun on your menu, you're marketing for people that try to basically eliminate themselves from
that race, or from that culture, or well,
from the culture, like the true culture of Louisiana.
Correct.
They wanna separate, right? Separate it, and a lot of people don't understand that. And it's just it got real big, because before, growing up in Beaumont, we didn't see anything Cajun this and that.
Right.
But within the last 10 years, Cajun this, Cajun that, and I'm like, man, I don't think people realize what is Cajun. Cajun is that demographic of people that came from Canada that didn't have anything.
Right.
The Creole culture was here and thriving. But now people then took that away, and it
so gentrification didn't just start.
Right.
They tried to gentrify a whole culture.
Right.
And they marketed it well, and because a lot of people don't know, like I see a bunch of different pop-up restaurants, and I'm like, they talking about Cajun. That is not Cajuns. Do they not realize?
And people don't.
Right. But I think I think it's more of you saying the same thing. I think it's more of it was an economic thing.
Correct. I agree.
Right, because Creole was
sharecroppers and educated ones.
Right. Creole was more of a high-end type of business class individual, and Cajun was more of a poor, mostly white, in the backwoods swamp type.
And that's exactly how
right.
And see, I'm glad y'all said that. That's exactly how my elders refer to those people as the old Caucasian.
Got you.
So now you marketing it, and they are becoming the rich old Caucasians, and a lot of people don't understand that that's almost like a derogatory term towards them, that the older people that I've got around to get the oral history from, they refer to those people as Caucasians. It wasn't a good thing.
Right. So let me ask you this: get into the genealogy of that stuff and the culture of it. Far as now, right now, 2022, we are black. We have a black skin, right? And like you was looking at the white picture on the wall, we're really not too removed from that. It's only maybe 2 generations, maybe two or 3 generations. Like my great grandmother was white, like white, Irish white, but I have nothing like in my blood. I'm like 98% black. I'm 98% black. The blood is running through me.
Good hair.
You know what I'm saying?
You got good hair. That's about it. The rest of it is.
But see, you just admitted something yourself. Mm-hmm. I tell people this a lot. I get a lot of rebuttal from it.
Okay.
I truly believe, and I stand on this, that your skin color is only the tint of your genetics.
Right.
Okay.
It's a social construct.
People don't realize that.
Exactly. Like,
Right.
how could you mathematically add and subtract your pigmentation
Absolutely.
when they don't know your ancestors?
Right.
I'm a believer. I'm a genealogist. I go to the courthouses. I have to go look for the people within the records. I don't have anything that's saying this person come from that person, that come from that person, unless I'm dealing with a probate or a will that disperse the assets of an ancestor.
Okay.
So when you get that deep and you ask somebody to call you a racial term, does it truly define you?
And it may. I'm not saying
So
in a
it's
derogatory way.
For certain aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, and it can be tricky when you're dealing with the U.S. government,
Right.
especially when it comes to reparations, because now all of a sudden we got an additional people of color that didn't experience that middle passage how we experienced it.
Right. Correct.
Right.
But that was different, though. I think when you saying that, I think when you referring to the middle passage, I think the middle passage was more of those people who experienced chattered slavery.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Versus a black person that went through those hard times.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's what reparations, I think, more on that case of that is. But they still got to prove who went through that type of slavery.
And that's what.
So, but how do you separate a person's struggle? How do you? Do you really take that from them? It's their experience, what they felt, what they went through, whether it happened one way or the other. It still happened. So,
Right.
even to say you separate the two, why?
Well, I think it's more of a experience because
For who though? For that person. So you can't take that from
all right
them.
for that family.
Right. Right.
So all right, for instance, like you mentioned Creole. Most Creole people was mentioned as white, or they was labeled as white because they was fine hair, light color eyes, and light skin. So we'll go back to you, Alex. So let me ask you this: what motivated you to even get into this? Like, what's your motivation behind that? Because a lot of people don't even care.
You're right.
A lot of black people say, "Okay, well, I'm black. Oh well."
Man, I since we on record, I'm a withhold some names.
Okay.
You'll be surprised how many powerful people that have all the tools and resources to dig on their own family tree that I'm related to, that are producing some of these films that you have out here now.
Oh yeah.
But they don't even know their own background. Like, for example, I have a relative who is phenomenal when it comes to Texas history. Went to school, doctorates and everything, but she didn't do anything on her own ancestry. And our story is way more significant than some of the things that she went to school to study. Like, I felt like she went to school to go study those people, but look at all the ancestry that you have within your own family unit. And a lot of people don't realize that too.
Why do you think it's that part is she stays? Why do you think a person would stay away from that part?
Well, for one, a lot of people tend to. What I've noticed a lot of black families, a lot of them don't celebrate a lot of the success because they feel that since they want to be in a community with other black people, we can't talk about the excellence within the family. Okay. So a lot of people like to pick a story. Like, for example, for reparations, it really annoys me how I have some of my own family members who have been living on ancestral land from the 1700s, well-educated, got the resources. In their mind, because they don't have millions of dollars, that they're not wealthy or well off. But I'm thinking to myself,
The land.
I can go to the courthouse and see that you've been having land since the 1700s.
Now, you just said a mouthful, because we was talking about that the other day. What a lot of people don't realize, when you buy land, they no longer sell you the mineral rights,
Right.
which is a big deal.
Oh, man.
So if they've been sitting on that land since the 1700s, you have those mineral rights. So if you open it up for these oil and gas companies to come frack on this land, you could be like the hillbillies in Shreveport, living off the royalties of your money. But we won't let our minds go beyond what we think it is. It's the lack of education of it.
And I think, too, when people get assimilated into the cities, they forget the beautiful and the essence of the country living. When you live off the land becomes more important. Then you get to the city and you assimilate into those. Then you go the day-to-day doing the regular work, and you don't really care about the things that are passed down from the family.
Right.
Like, that no longer become important.
You're not making no more land.
And
You gotta keep
at
that.
the same time, I think, to your point, that is correct. But also, I think that advancement. I'm not saying that it was better. Most people get an opportunity to advance and go to other places. Like, don't get me wrong, the city, the country is awesome. The land is beautiful, but there's no advancement, there's no progression. Because I'm saying there's no progression and I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about mindset.
Yeah.
A lot of those people, they don't get me wrong. I love the country. I love the peace. I love the quiet. But at the same time, when you try to implement something in the country, the mindset of the people won't change. So they wait till those people die out, and then the kids that do live there, they don't want to give it up, but they don't realize what type of asset they have. Yeah, that's true.
And one thing that I love about my family, like a lot of my family members, I go on Facebook, they still hunting versus people that move to the city.
You're
They
right.
not into
That
it.
is true too.
And I'm like, man, that's a significant amount of people that I have witnessed within my family unit that's hunting. So of course they want the guns because they know the guns.
Right.
Hunting and
They know the
fishing.
importance of it.
Right.
So I mean, there's a lot of different things that I've been noticing within my own family unit. And when I say my family unit, I'm talking about pretty much
Black.
I can circle the whole Southwest Louisiana,
Black people,
and
yeah.
I'm connected to a lot of those families there.
So let's talk about that, because I want to get in that as far as these connections. Like, I know you've been doing this stuff for a while, and I'm pretty sure you connected the dots to what we call people that we call famous or people we call known. You connected the dots to a lot of these people. So who are some of these people that we know that are known, that are connected to us, or connected to each other?
Oh, there's so many of them. Honestly, it's like every day I'm discovering that I'm related to like a famous person.
Okay.
But Paul George,
Basketball player.
that's a relative.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also a relative to Layla Ali. All of those people came from the
'Cause of that
same common
port.
ancestor.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have producer Kim Gagne. She comes from that same family. The Boondocks.
John Witherspoon.
Not John Witherspoon, the one who wrote it.
Oh.
Magruder, Aaron
yeah.
Magruder.
Yeah.
He all come from that same family.
Okay.
And they don't know that. They have no clue about this, but they all come from the same family. Joe Young, basketball player from here.
Right.
He's part of that same family. I found out Adam Levine.
Mm-hmm.
He's a relative.
Okay. Room 5.
Chicago Bulls. Play for the Chicago
Oh,
Bulls.
okay. Adam Levine. Okay. I'm thinking about the
You
singer.
think Maroon?
The singer. Yeah.
Bun B, Alan Lazard, Steven Jackson. Biggest misconceptions.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, if you're digging in Louisiana history, if you don't know Francais, you're not going to understand anything.
Right.
So they got the truth in there, but you probably can't translate it.
Okay.
And then you have to look at the old calligraphy too. We used to print it work. But if you look at some of them old documents,
It's all written.
Bibles.
it's going to be very difficult for the average person.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that until I had wanted somebody to basically to type a document that I had.
Okay.
And she couldn't. She was like, "Are you serious? Is that really English?" I'm like, "Yes." And then I thought about it. They no longer write in cursive.
Right.
So believe it or not, they have truths in there because they didn't have anything to go against during these particular eras. Now you do have cases like around the what was that big event? The Great Depression.
Yep.
When you have
30s.
recorders in there not putting everything, and there was a lot of scripturalist things going on during that particular era,
Right.
to where you got people that don't have to put certain things to protect people with property.
Mm.
So it's a lot of different things in there, but for the most part, you can find unbelievable truths up in the courthouse that you wouldn't even think that they would have documented. And and then another thing you got to think about, nobody thought that black people would have the accessibility to go back and look at these particular
Because they couldn't read.
records.
It was well, during slavery time, it was against the law to read.
Right.
And to
So,
let them know you could.
Right.
if
But
you
before that,
did.
they was most of them was free, especially the ones up north. But during the slavery, Jim Crow and all that, they couldn't read. It was a law not to read. So that's probably why they did it.
Right. And then that was a general thing too, because not a lot of white people, was literate as well. Like when you look at the census record, it's like, wow, it was a big deal. Like I actually got documents of some of my ancestors who were free people of color who were literate, and you have the white man
With a X.
writing his name with an X, and they got the most. My family, as black families, have the most beautiful handwriting.
How often are you called upon for like probate succession to find out what's what and try to help people get those things together? And is it tedious?
It's very tedious. In fact, I've had probably at least once a week somebody contact me trying to get information to tie them back to the land. Then I've done work with like some of the oil and gas companies, because when you see me, I know, especially with St. Landry, I know all the families, and they literally have to do almost like a genealogy work to see where this property came from. But when I'm around, I know just about everything within that little particular region, so it's a lot easier because I know the associated family. So I get called on a lot for I mean, and I do it behind the scenes. That's not something that I would promote because of the controversy that comes behind.
Right.
NDAs and all that stuff.
Oh man, when you're dealing with land, it could be very, very controversial.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this: the term mulatto. A lot of people, since from being from New Orleans, a lot of people that's light skinned, they have this term called mulatto, and I think mulatto is a mixture of Spanish, Indian, and white. I believe African, Spanish, and white. I think European white. The term mulatto, a lot of people say that's like cursing somebody out. Like it's like a derogatory
like
term,
butt.
right? And really, it's kind of one, but
Well, you can look at it.
Passe blanc.
You can look at it that way, but you gotta understand, like, with the culture of Louisiana being up under the Latin and French influence, they were real big on terminology as far as your description of what you look like.
Right.
And to be honest with you, had they not used those descriptions, it'd be almost impossible to have the research that I've conducted.
Right.
For example, if I'm looking at a slave record and it says mulatto or quatron or any of those labels, I know that I'm dealing with somebody that's probably of European descent.
Okay.
That's mixed with maybe African or Native American. Whereas if I see Negri or Negro, I know that I'm dealing with somebody that's probably from Africa. So it can give me a trail, and it's very helpful to use those descriptions. But then again, when you have a culture of people, anything can be derogatory. Like, for example, my elders call me Monet, like, which would be my nigga in
Monet. English
translation, but that's a term of endearment when you're saying that, when you're using that word. So as much as we think it is offensive, especially with more people becoming conscious of who
they are
or what we try to be.
Right. I ain't gonna say that
You're divided by different tribes.
Tribes.
Different nations.
Yeah.
Like I know I have a lot of different nations, and that's the thing I love about, with Louisiana, the description of the people, you can literally track down exactly which tribe you come from because they put that information in a colonial documentation.
Right.
For example, I have ties to the Mandinkas.
Okay.
Documented. Then I have the Wolof tribe, the Senegalese. They have all of those descriptions up in the colonial records. So when I hear black people say, we don't have no records on ourselves, that is a lie.
You just ain't looking for
You just don't understand what you got to go through to get to that documentation. And that's why I see a lot of people, a lot of YouTubers, I'm like, man, I wish they invite me to their show because I can really humble them. Because when you don't believe something, you believe any and everything,
Right.
and you don't have enough people with knowledge that can guide you the right way. And then now your stuff be so far-fetched, it's going to make somebody, maybe that is true. You're not going to want to question it as much because it's so out of reach.
And
Well, we in a sense, I think, I don't want to cut you off, but I think right now we in a, what is it?
it's bad.
It's not a Me Too, but it's more of a conscious, unconscious state. It's like
Right.
you could say like what I forgot what they call them. The woke ones, the woke. They call them woke.
They woke.
They just woke.
They use the
They
term
got
for
insomnia.
aboriginal.
Right. They
You
just
hear them say aboriginal a lot.
Oh,
aboriginal.
I've heard. Okay, is that what the woke people are?
Believe it or not. See, a lot of times I don't just go around saying, hey, I do genealogy, I do this and that. Because I like to get the feedback to see what people are on. Like
I need to know.
I done had some people that came to my house with a group of people, didn't even pay attention to all the paintings and the different documents that I got, and tried to basically wake everybody up.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, this is going to be real interesting.
It's about to get good.
I'm going to let you entertain everybody, but let me tell you where you come from.
Right.
And I'm going to show you what documentation that you don't have. Because when you was explaining your little stories to everybody, I didn't see you
Your
pull up
little
no
story.
documentation.
Right.
And it's interesting because a lot of those people, when I look at the birth certificate, you don't have your daddy on there. Then I look at your grandma, she don't have her daddy on there. Y'all got y'all great-grandmother last name. What about the other people?
Right.
But you trying to feed people knowledge beyond the errors, which are very important, which shows us where we get our cultural identity for that's relatable to us now. You want to go all the way back to 200.
Right.
And we don't know how true that information is.
Right. That was
My thing is I want to know what my grandparents' era, with my great-grandparents, great-great, things that are closest to us.
Right.
Because those are the fresh documents. But when you go 1,000 years, that ain't really affecting us like as much as we believe.
right.
Because it's so far back, we don't know where we were. We were just taught a certain thing. So I would like to focus on a particular era to which we get the culture, most of our identity of today.
So let me ask you this. I know you, like you said, you stated that you deal with a lot of people, you deal with a lot of families. So if a family disagree with you, say if it's a all-white family, and they like white, they like Donald Trump white.
They look.
Right? Well, somebody is, they have that in their blood, but they don't accept it. How would you illustrate that to them?
DNA don't lie.
Right. Like what they say, Dana don't lie.
Look, I don't even cope with those emotional people. like
Okay.
that.
Right.
So I come factual. Anytime you're dealing with something like that, I stick to the facts
Okay.
and ignore the emotions. And, you have to be dead spot on, because what's so bad about you being of African descent? And see, believe it or not, I have people in my family, you wouldn't know what they are. And a lot of them didn't know what they were because they live with families that have probably lived as white.
Right.
Notice I say lived as white and not passed for white.
Gotcha.
Because sometimes you have generations of people to where you get people that may have an ancestor that was an African slave that have children with a Frenchman. The way that they did this was systematic almost.
Right.
So this plantation owner is going to hook up with the other plantation
owner, yeah.
and you have these people, and then 3 generations later, you almost have some white-looking family members, but they are going to be called Jean de color libre. They were free people of color.
Okay.
But because we can track down that black ancestor or African ancestor, they are not going to be considered white. But if you look at them, they're white.
White. Right.
But they just documented as people of color, but the appearance. So they have a lot of people really in this world that are like that. And these DNA tests is exposing that, and more people are coming around. And I hate to sound like an old Southerner,
right.
but I wasn't gonna, bother
You ain't
those
crazy.
people. I was gonna stay in my place,
Right.
Right.
because I know they probably don't know. And could you imagine me knowing that you come from free people of color that were almost at the mercy of getting killed, and then I go look at some of their descendants and go look at the political views,
Oh yeah.
and they excited about things that almost took their ancestors
Right.
out. They literally became their oppressors because of the lack of knowledge.
But
Correct.
see, then that's when you have to realize what people have to learn the history that Louisiana used to be blue and red and how all that flip flop. And see, people don't know those things, and so when you try to educate them on it, they looking like, yeah,
And when it comes to that, this is very, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but a lot of my black family, they be politicking as Democrats, but resourcefully, they Republicans.
Oh, absolutely.
Behind the
you
scenes,
gotta do what you gotta do.
they Republicans.
And a lot of people escape that because, because then they get
Shout out to all the
that title.
Republicans in the building. Shout out to all the
They
Republicans.
don't call them Republican.
Now, see, anytime somebody talk about the whole reparations, I'm like, whew.
You ain't gonna get what you think.
No, I'm gonna be doing this. They're gonna be giving me the money. I'm gonna be giving it back to them because the way.
I got you.
If they break it down like they supposed to.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't realize how many people of color own slaves.
Right.
Like,
Whitney Gilbert, the whole episode on
Right.
A Different World when she was, because she found out her granddad owned slaves. Because it happened though.
but this is the thing about it, man. This is the first.
Talk
time
about it. Talk about it. Educate the people.
Now this is interesting. Now my research is so deep. I have literally watched what happens when families come from these prominent free people of color who had the resources. Believe it or not, I'm looking at the records and I'm like, after slavery, they didn't marry their slaves.
Okay.
So you go down to the next generation, they didn't marry them. And I'm literally pulling the World War I draft
Right.
cards, World War II. They working for the same families that once owned them. And you would think, if I'm working on a plantation, how come I can't marry so-and-so daughter? But see, people don't know that.
Right.
And then guess who those people who had those resources, they run in the cities right now.
So look, in saying that, so you put something in my head right just now, because the thing is this, I think, this is something deep right now. I got a thought.
Lord,
I got a
he finna
thought.
get deep.
Because
Sound
think about it. Think about it. You just said that, and that made sense to present day. We talk about no such thing as racism is about classism now, right?
Nobody don't like to
elitist.
talk about that.
It's been classism, but we've been distracted by
Thank
the
you.
term racism.
Thank you.
Mm.
You
Better
talk to
start
the
asking.
elders,
They know
they not talking about no looks. They talking about
money.
property.
That's right.
Right. But see, people don't
Classism.
think that. They don't. They
That makes sense.
they
Like
don't
with my
think
family,
that.
for example, that's why I say it was almost meant for me to come from the people that I come from, because I come from the people that was in the slave quarters, the people that was in the big house, the people that owned the house,
Come on.
and the neighbors.
Different
So I'm
variations,
coming
yeah.
from, I can give you a perspective of everything versus if I have one of my white family members, they ain't gonna know who those Negroes was listed in those records.
Right.
But because I come from those Negroes in the records and the plantation owner, and I get to know everything. Everything becomes important to me because you ain't gonna know the Negroes on the plantation if you don't know the plantation owners.
Correct.
So
Correct.
you can't just do genealogy. Oh, I'm gonna just do genealogy on my black side. How is that possible?
Make that make
Right.
sense.
It don't make sense.
Make that make sense.
But-
Because you wouldn't have a black side without that other side.
And that's exactly why my work has become what it's become. I have everybody in my family following me. It's not just the black family members. I have a diverse group of people, old and young, because how I conduct my genealogy. I don't exclude anybody.
Right.
The rich, the poor. I can go anywhere, and that's the beauty of why I love the fact that it's important to go back into your history so you can really see, okay, I want to see what really went on.
Okay.
And I kept getting deeper and get deeper. Like half the time, I can't even really have a conversation with the average person because I'm constantly thinking about the things that I know, and I'm like, man, if I speak, how can I interpret what's going on in my head to them to where I'm not offending what they don't know?
Yeah.
Got you.
And sometimes they may become so frustrated because it's just like a religious belief. People don't like to see it. Racism is just like a religious belief. You got to believe in the color. Whereas the Creole, see, a lot of people, I really have to educate people and break it down when they say Creole. When I think of Creole, no, we're not talking about a certain looking type of people.
Right.
And that's what they think.
And that's the misconception what's going on with a lot of New Orleans. Like when I go to New Orleans,
I'm Creole. I'm light skinned. 7'4". I'm in the 7 Ward.
For the 7 Ward, yeah.
I don't understand how come.
Shout out to Gentile.
I don't understand how come New Orleans is so known for this Creole, but when I go to the stores, I say "Como se va." They looking at me.
No, indeed, they can't talk to you.
They can't speak.
But when I go to places like Mamu, oh, you better know. You better be ready for everything else.
Right.
But what I've realized in New Orleans, it has such a bad reputation because of the way some of the families were very classist. They looked at the skin color a certain way.
Right.
And when you go to different areas, like in Southwest Louisiana, man, it's so mixed up. You have so many different mixtures. They didn't care because guess what? You had people that was African descent, that was free people of color that had more property than the people that were fair skin.
That is true.
I'm gonna use the correct terminology. They were darker or lighter. I don't want to say fair skin because
why is it fair?
Yeah, exactly.
It makes it unfair if it's not light.
You know, my cousin had to school me on that, and it's like he made me realize. He said, you don't realize how programmed you are until you start to really break down everything that you're saying.
The words
like how y'all use the good hair, the bad hair. Like what makes it good hair, what makes it bad hair.
But when did that? Because a lot of those people in those areas, it was a choice.
It was all about education.
Sharecropper or to go to school.
Right.
And a lot of males and things like that didn't have a choice. They had to stay at home and work the land. They did not go to school. And not being funny, but like Adam say, I mean, you got people this color.
Dark.
Can't speak English. They speak nothing but French, and it'll throw you off because you'll be like, what now? Because, I've been around, like I say, family members in that area.
Like Evangeline
and they all get to talking.
Right. You go to speaking
somebody translate something.
That was a culture shock for me. Like, when I first started going to Evangeline Parish, like places like Mamu, it blew my mind.
Right.
Because I'm like, wait a minute. It's like I literally jumped into a time machine and went back because they all were speaking French, but they were black people.
But it sounds so
it's foreign.
Regal. But to hear them speak, it's not broken.
Right.
It's not like broken.
Right. It's like French. Like
it's French.
It's proper.
It's not Creole. It's actually French.
Right.
French.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that they have different dialects. For example, you go towards like St. Martinville, they speak Creole. Just how they pronounce their dead people. Like I noticed when I was in the Leonville, Prairie Lemon area, they refer to the dead people as Po Larry or Po this person.
Okay.
But when I go to Evangeline Parish, they say "de fame."
De fame?
Like they say it. Like I mean, like
what do you call money, les gens?
Right. But just different areas they speak different dialects of French.
In some New Orleans, they say beaucoup.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that's French though. Beaucoup in French is a lot.
But that's like broken.
Beaucoup? Beaucoup
but
is
the way
French.
they say
Mercy.
it, the way they say it.
Hey, I'm about to speak French on the show. I ain't ready for that. Shout out to the French.
Then, like I said,
shout out to the niggas that speak French.
Shout out. You stupid.
But that's true though. With New Orleans, beaucoup.
Yeah.
Got beaucoup over there. They got beaucoup. Who is they and what they got beaucoup of? Let's talk about that. Because even my parents aren't short. My mom is about 5'9", 5'10". My daddy, he's getting old, so maybe shrinking a little bit. Shout out to daddy.
How tall are you?
I'm almost 6'1".
You the milkman baby.
I mean, but this is the funny part. My granddaddy had a brother that was like 6'4". So me and all of my siblings are tall.
Right.
And so it's like, where y'all get this height from? But see, because that's when Kason came home one day, and he was like, Mama, my son is going through this whole phase. He was like, Mama, can I marry you like Daddy? No, you cannot marry me. He was like, well, who am I going to marry? I said, you can marry somebody else. And his question was, would she have brown skin like me? If you're going to bring her home to your mama, she will.
Don't do that. Don't do that, because now you teaching him hate.
Oh no, I'm not teaching him hate, but I'm gonna arrange his marriage because the way this world is, his marriage gonna be arranged, whatever. But I ain't say what kind of brown skin.
Right.
Her
I
skin
got
just
you.
need to be brown.
Latino, Mexican. You got plenty of them here.
It just need to be brown. But right.
Shout out to all the Mexicans taking over. Hey,
That is so politically incorrect.
Right.
For the 99 and the 2000. The tequila didn't kick me.
I love y'all. I love y'all Mexicans. By the way, don't look.
Stop saying that.
Latinos. Look, don't do that. All right.
So you only love the men?
No, I ain't say that. See, look, we going somewhere else with this conversation. So Alex, you brought some stuff here. So I see you have an ancestry DNA type deal here. Could you explain like what's going on with the board?
So basically, the middle part is the nucleus.
Okay.
So that picture that's kind of in the middle, that's my great grandfather.
He started it.
That's the one who started me to look.
Papa kicked it off.
Alex LaFleur, Jr.
Right.
Okay.
And so if you look down below, that's the proof that I am a descendant of the family that I'm saying I'm from, because that's the DNA matches that's going all the way down to the individual that's at the bottom.
Yolanda Donette.
Right. And then you go down to Martin Donato.
Donato,
Who
okay.
was a free man of color,
My
by the way.
last sister's a Donato. She in Baton Rouge.
Really?
Shout out to
That might be
Tasha?
Ken.
No, we
Tasha.
are kin. Because
Y'all
if your name Donato, we related, because that.
Tasha, I got your cousin,
We're
girl.
supposed to be Bello, but we took the daddy first name and made it the last name.
Okay.
So that's a common thing in Louisiana.
So they took the
Like
person's first name and they made it the last name.
So how did? What do you
I
mean
got
when
you.
they took it? How do you choose that? Like when you're filling out paperwork?
So basically, that's just like with slaves. Like, for example, I feel sorry for people who change their name because they feel like they got it from
the slave master.
the white man.
Right, I got you.
Hamilton.
Now, when they did that, me doing
Took something
research,
from yourself.
you did. For example, like Robert and I, we descend from a guy by the name of Tambour, which was French. When you get to the Anglos, the name went to Tom, then it went to Thomas.
Thomas, yeah.
So he actually has his ancestor name as his last name. He didn't get it from the Anglos. He got it directly
Oh, that's right.
from his ancestor. His name would have been Tambour, but everything had to be Americanized, so it switched to Thomas.
Got you.
So that's why you have so many different set
See,
of
when
Thomas.
you think about that stuff, it makes so much sense because you got like a Utz chips, but my aunt, my dad's sister, my Uncle James, my late Uncle James, his last name was Oots, O-U-T-T-Z. That's not African.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
That's a lot.
That's like a German type.
That's
Oots.
Oots.
Yeah.
Got a Utz chips, but it's Oots.
Oots.
Is the name.
That's why I don't recommend nobody. I mean, it aggravates me that I got college professors in my family that done changed their name to Muslim names, but I'm like, you messed up.
Right.
Because guess what? We're going to be looking for Shabazz, but that ain't the last name.
You
So
changed
now,
your
Know your name, Johnson.
and then what's interesting, like when it comes to the genealogy and the culture, it can cause issues because I am so fortunate that I saw this man picture before I started to look at the different documentaries.
That's the first picture you saw?
Right. That was the first time I ever looked at anything historical with my family, because I was then exposed to different things after that didn't change my perception about my people.
So one thing I noticed, DNA ties to Donato. It's an extra T as it went along.
Right. They wanted to try to be all fancy like Donato.
Oh, like when you put the
Right.
accent mark.
But it's one T, but they put the two T's. But we all the same family.
So that letter.
Okay.
So that letter, the letters that you have there, are they the signatures of the families of of the Donatos, or what are those? Those letters right there in the cursive. You see
On the left side?
Yeah, I see. You say marriage to Louise.
Did that come out of
Oh,
a
that's
Bible?
that's the actual marriage record.
Oh, okay. Marriage
But
certificate.
do you get a lot of information from Bibles? Because you know back then
Yeah,
they used to literally put all that marriage stuff and birth
Right.
and all. Because Bibles still come with those
Oh, yeah.
pages. People don't fill them out anymore
Right.
like they used
Right.
to.
Yeah. A lot of
Because my mom owns a lot of Bibles.
Family
from
Bibles,
Family
yes.
Bibles. Because she was like, that's the only way you going to know what happened.
right.
That's your record. That's
Yeah.
your medical record, the
Right.
Bible.
So you can have that, and especially when you're dealing with Southwest Louisiana, the Catholics were meticulous with keeping documentation
Right.
of everything.
Right.
So that's why we have a chance to get a glimpse at history that can go into depth versus you go somewhere else outside of Louisiana, or you can even just go up north Louisiana. If they don't have no Catholic church around, it's going to be kind of hard because the Protestants really didn't believe in documenting like everything in life, like
Right.
how the Catholics were real big. The Catholic Church was always big with genealogy.
So what about the picture that's in the frame right there with the light skinned fellow?
Yeah, that's Martin Donata.
With the
That's
wop.
right. That's Martin Donata.
Okay, so that's the daddy.
Right.
That's the daddy. So now the painting with the black lady
Finger waves
in the
at top.
bed and the sick lady in the
Oh,
bed.
over there.
Yeah.
So with my work, what I'm doing, because the work is in French, I want to show you what's going on in the
So you
document.
painted that.
I wish I could. Shout out to my cousin Mara Highgood who painted that.
Okay.
I've been having different relatives, they donate, and what I do, I turn the documentation into illustration.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Because when you look at, I'm pretty sure as they looking through them records, that's most of that is in French. So a lot of people don't know how to read French. So you can look at it that. So you tell me what you think is going on without me telling you.
So I see a priest in the back, and I see a black lady. She's the maid. She's the not what's the woman? The people that you call that have the
housemaid.
babies. Not the maid, but
the nursemaid.
the house
She was the
housemaid.
nursemaid.
Is
She
it the
was
housemaid?
it wasn't a nanny at the time. It was a nursemaid. She was the keeper of. She kept the babies.
the midwife.
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 That's what it is. She's the
That
midwife.
lady is not having a baby. She's
No,
dying.
no, I'm saying, but
just
she
old.
also was the housekeeper, and she also was the part of the burial of those black kids from the slave master.
Oh, you good?
I'm telling you. And then the guy right there that's sitting down with the glasses, he's probably writing everything he'll will out.
There you go.
Yeah,
So she did a good job. That's exactly what's going on.
yeah. I know how it went.
So the reason why this is
Stop.
that's exactly what's going on. And,
Yeah.
and then there's more illustrations on the back, like you see, they have another painting in the back.
With the guy with the top hat, and he probably was the father. Is he in the picture, or is he just? Or he probably the daddy that probably don't want to see what's going on, or the husband.
That's her son.
Oh, you see, they got a. If you look at the bed, they got a guy look like he in an army outfit.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's his daddy. He was
Right.
over the Opelousas Post during the American Revolution period. So I got that painting in there to kind of illustrate, just a little history. But that's exactly what's going on. Martin Donata, he was sick, and he was given his last will and testament that would liberate the woman that's on the bed, Julie,
Right.
and those children in the background, as well as some of his other family members that were on the plantation, which I descend from. So that's why I say I have a complicated connection to that particular individual, because my black ancestor owned my black ancestors.
Right.
But at the same time, when you think about that and you don't go into depth, you would have somebody using it as an argument. Oh, but black people own black people as well.
Because
Right,
that's significant what you said. He liberated her, those children, and other people, but he didn't liberate the whole plantation.
Exactly.
So she took over, and there's still people out there who stay in the field.
Correct.
And she moved her and her children, whoever else, into the house, but there was still those who had to stay
She's
there and
basically,
work for her.
you know what? In layman terms, she's basically the CEO of the company now.
Right. Now I'm the CEO.
Right.
I'm the HNIC.
Right. She's the VP,
And
now
you
she's in
would
another
believe-
economic class.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Like, and then what's interesting about that, because mind you, Martin Donata was born in 1756. She was born in like maybe 1813.
So she was real young.
So
Yeah.
her children now become heirs. They got the closer money
And their
versus
children.
his descendants. You got to go through bam, 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 bam. This guy was a multimillionaire during
Right.
that particular period. So the money that Julie and her descendants got was relatively close, and it was a significant amount of money to where these people became the pillar of the black community
Right.
in Opelousas because they had the resources. Now, if Southwest Louisiana was to erase Martin Donata, if he never exists, half of the black companies and the black
Wouldn't exist.
politicians and basically some of your elite level black business owners, politicians, entrepreneurs in this whole area, including Houston,
Wouldn't exist.
wouldn't exist.
Mm.
So a lot of people don't understand it. And then I got records of slaves borrowing money from Martin Donata to get liberated. But when you get somebody that's telling my ancestor story, they ain't going to give you all the facts to let you know that he just wasn't a slave owner. You had to think about it this way. Either you going to watch the game or get in the game.
That's right.
That's how it was. And that's why I tell people you got to look at history for what it was. Of course, people going to be emotional because that ain't the only free black slave owner I descend from. I descend from another one.
Do you give that disclaimer when you start working with people? Do you tell them they have to like check their emotions? What is your pep talk that you give? Because this can be tough for a lot of people. Do you give a pep talk? Do you prepare them for what you may be about to tell them?
What you just said, I basically tell them that, and after that, if they too emotional, it is what it is. I have relatives. Once again, most people don't believe their own family history first.
Right.
Because they don't know it.
Right.
And then when Cousin Alex come around, they got a dashiki, something that's, I don't even know where that culture come from.
Extreme.
Because I don't see that in Africa either.
Right.
Dashikis and all of that, that's American.
That's American.
They probably have the colors.
But
the
even
colors
when you
that
talk about, I mean, just real quick, just to say cultures and subcultures, because when you go into these situations of how you say she was there in the picture and those were her children and this was happening and that was happening, because even culturally now, when you have kids who grew up thinking the person they thought was their mama was really their grandmother, because the mama the person they thought was the sister is really the, you know, when those things trickle down like that for whatever reason, because it may have been some incest or abuse or whatever was happening, then what do you get that? Do you get those types of situations? And then you have to give them that the person you thought was your uncle is really your daddy. And I make a joke about Uncle Daddy, but I know it really does happen.
Oh, it happens more than often. Like, you realize the stuff that's going on today, could you imagine before you had social media what was going on?
They don't talk about it.
Not an example. This man got some of the most prominent black descendants in the country right now. I'm talking about across the board. Like, we watch sports. We know Aaron Magruder. We make it was ironic that you said that. Like, all of these people come from that man, and look at these descendants. They don't even know this man. Like, the person who owned the Spurs before they went, when they was the Dallas Cowboys, before they went to San Antonio, descend from that man. Like, this man has his descendants, the reach of his descendants is like, I can't believe it. And to protect some of his descendants because of their political stance and their notoriety, I wouldn't mention who they are, but you would be surprised who's running the state of Texas that's actually a descendant of this man. Why? How come they don't have a movie about him yet?
Oh, they might. They're going to hear this and look, it's going to happen.
Hey, and then one thing I learned, my name all over the internet. You write Donata, you can't do a Donata story without me.
That's right. That's right.
Like, I'm going to mention something off record.
Now we off the record.
We off the record, off the record. You want me to turn the cameras off and turn it back on?
No, I'm talking about after this.
Okay, I got you.
Other stuff that I do know,
because
I know way more than what I actually put out there.
Okay.
For that reason, because it's certain entertainers that then.
Alex don't have no hits being put on me. I got a young child now.
Look, Alex, let me ask you this, because we could go forever and forever on this, and it's got to be a part 2 to this.
Man, Alex gonna do mental
It got to
health.
be a part 2, because when we talking about this thing, it could be a 4-hour conversation. Right. But my thing is, I want to highlight you, and I want people to reach out to you, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people are in dire need of who they are and where they come from. So I want to ask you, where could the people find you if they want to get their information out there? They want to get their genealogy out there. They want to know who they come from, where they come from, why they come from.
I'm on social media. Instagram, it's Creole Alex.
Okay.
And then
Not
got
Creole.
Alex Genealogy.
Okay.
And then on Facebook, it's Alex Genealogy.
Okay. So that's it.
That's it.
Reach you, DM, hit you in the DM like that. Say that one more time.
It's Creole Alex, at Creole Alex on Instagram.
Okay.
Alex Genealogy, that's my new Instagram.
Okay.
and Facebook.com/Alex Genealogy.
Okay.
GENEALOGY.
That's right. 'Cause, you know, some of
Please
us can't
spell it
spell.
for the
You know what I'm
people.
saying? You can't spell it sometimes.
Please spell it for the guinea pigs.
Right.
Look, we're not saying that you can't spell. We're just saying we just have a hard time understanding. That's all.
They
it
like
is.
to put that extra O in there.
Guys, look, man, look. This right here has been an awesome episode. We got to bring Alex back because the thing is, we have to know where we come from to get what we need to get. You dig what I'm saying? So I'd like to appreciate Alex for coming on the show, man. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Next week gonna be an awesome show. Also, make sure that if you want to hit us up in the DM. If you want to hit Alex up, hit him up in the DM because he's gonna have some information for you. If you think you're from Africa, hit him up. If you think you're from Europe, hit him up. If you think you're from Spain, hit him up. He's the guy that's for you right here. And you're located where?
Beaumont, Texas.
Beaumont. He right there by Port
409.
Arthur. Right there, Port Arthur, on the side over there by the Waffle House. No,
Yeah, on the other side of Anahuac.
nah. But guys, this is the Culture to Think podcast. This is your boy DJ KO.
K Jack is back in the building.
She's back temporarily. Then she'll be back. I don't know, but anyway, I'm glad you're back. But anyway, glad you guys tuned in, guys. I appreciate it. I love you guys. Peace
You
out.
don't even know them people.